How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the 1IQ Sports Talk YouTube channel. I'm Brendan, and today we are going to be going over our Week 5 Chicago Bears game recap. And you know what? Bears get another win, baby. Yes, it was against the Carolina Panthers, but they did it in such a way where it was dominating fashion from the start of the game all the way to the end of the game. And you know what? I'm gotta say I was pretty damn impressed overall with what I saw in this game from the defense, from the offense, special teams you didn't really see a ton of in this game. So it's you can't be upset with what you saw in that either. And it was just ultimately a really, really solid game all around. And I'm pretty happy about it. And so I think we'll start with the offense. Usually I like to kind of leave the offense because it always makes me super stressful and I don't love to talk about the offense. But this week, this was again moving off from what we saw last week. Last week there was still some things where I wanted to see some improvement, but overall the offense improved. And this week they were dominant. They did exactly what they wanted to do pretty much the entire game. It was a ton of fun to watch. And Caleb Williams, man, he looked very, very good in this one. He did exactly what he needed to do. And you know what? He sprinkled in some highlight level plays, and then he also had some nice long passes. Again, take what we saw from him last week against the Rams, where it was a lot of dunk and dime, and it's just short shots where he's just taking what he was given. You are ultimately going to be really sad. Like last week, I was really satisfied with that. I looked at that and I went, is it the most highlight level spectacular game we've ever seen from him? No. Will that be the most spectacular game from that we ever see? No. You sprinkle in a handful of, star power plays into that game, and you know what, then we're talking something different. And you know what, this week that's exactly what it was. He had a handful of scrambles away. He had a handful of scrambles in this game where he had some nice yardage, but he also had some really nice runs to just extend the play. And there was a rushing touchdown that was taken off from him. I forget who got the penalty. It might have been Doug Kramer on that one, but it was a very clear penalty, so I'm not going to be terribly upset with that. But ultimately, you can't talk about how like you can't speak of how good he was without like it was just really, really positive the way that he played this game. Like, this is what Chicago Bears fans expected we were going to get from Caleb Williams. And the fact that he already has two 300-yard passing games in his first 5 games as a Chicago Bear is just unbelievably satisfying. The amount of 300-yard passing games we had from Justin Fields when he was a Chicago Bear was one. He had one. And I'm a Chicago, like I'm a Fields supporter. I like Fields. I hope he does well for the Steelers, and he has been. He has been doing well. But the fact that Caleb Williams is doing the things that he's doing now for this team, it just gets you so damn excited, man. Again, this is the Panthers. One of the worst defenses in the league, one of the worst offenses in the league, and you're supposed to beat these teams. When you're the Bears, you're supposed to dominate them like what we saw the Bears do and dominate them. Raiders didn't do that. Bengals didn't do this. The Bears did. And we're talking very loosely about those two teams because those were the Andy Dalton games. And before we talk about the defense, the running game, it was exactly kind of what the Bears needed to do again, which was run the ball efficiently. And last week, I didn't really have a comparison for DeAndre Swift. I kind of said I want to see him potentially be like this almost Matt Forte type of back. The Bears are using him like Matt Forte. And if they continue to do that, good things are going to continue to happen with him. Use him out of the backfield, use him outside, and he is just going to play phenomenal. Like 21 rushes for 73 yards, a rushing TD. He had a rushing touchdown taken off the board. and that ultimately went to Roshan Johnson, who had another game where he had two TDs. He had two TDs in this game, only the 25 yards, but he was pretty much just used for a lot of short yardage situations. But this is what the Bears need to do. They need to have these sort of things where it's outside run, allow DeAndre Swift to kind of use that extreme elite athleticism to just make guys miss. Because again, on the broadcast, I forget the color man that was on the game, but he said if you put DeAndre Swift into space, he is a massive, massive, massive problem. And he showed he was a massive, massive, massive problem in that game. And it was just really, really positive to watch. And then DJ Moore, man, again, we've been I know a lot of Bears fans have been harping on him for body language. I never had that issue. I might have looked at it in game number 2 against the Texans of just showing a little bit too much frustration, but nothing more than that. I've always kind of looked at DJ and been like, he got that little bit more of an introverted personality. I don't know if he claims he's an introvert or an extrovert, but he's always kind of given that vibe to me of where he's comfortable kind of being alone in situations. And, we saw after that first touchdown that he got of the game, that was a beautiful pass by Caleb, and DJ just kind of did the rest and ultimately took it into the end zone. There's pictures going, well, he's just sitting alone, guys. Like, he just likes to sit alone, even after a touchdown. But the energy that he was able to give and show on that second passing touchdown, that was just an absolute dot from Caleb. Like, those are the types of plays that we saw at USC and at Oklahoma for Caleb. And for him to just get DJ Moore in that spot, it's like, if you're going to allow DJ Moore to have that much space, Caleb's not going to miss him that often in those situations. And again, I say that often because, earlier in the year, that might have potentially been a miss. And so that's another reason why I'm excited to see the development of Caleb Williams, because every single week he is getting better. And you know what? Throughout the game, Cole Kmet, had a few catches, for 57 yards. Rome Odunze also had 5 catches. Like, the ball was being spread around fairly nicely. Keenan Allen, I'm still kind of waiting for that big Keenan Allen play, but other than that, I always thought this year was going to be more DJ Moore and Rome Odunze, and then, you know, I was kind of hoping that we would have 3,000-yard receivers. I doubt we'll see that, but Keenan still kind of, I guess, recovering from that injury. I'm sure he would probably say internally that he's probably not 100% healthy, but he's still doing what he needs to do. He's a constant threat, and I still think Caleb and Keenan are still trying to work through and get a little bit more of that chemistry. Again, like, missing the 2 weeks that he did, I think really has kind of shown a little bit more. But ultimately, really good job by the offense. I thought the offensive line played the best that it has, but then again, when Carolina has guys that you've never heard of playing, you hope that the pressure wasn't going to be too much. Caleb only got sacked 1 time in this game. If I'm looking at who actually got the sack, Charles Harris. So again, no one really special, but I think even Caleb would have said that sack was probably on him and not the O-line. But again, you got to give the O-line props when they have themselves a good game. Bill Murray came in for Tevin Jenkins, who yet again has gotten injured, which is just so unbelievably frustrating. Bill Murray looked good. By PFF standard, I think he was the highest rated offensive lineman on our team this week. Continue to play him, honestly, and they opened up holes. The famous clip of Coleman Shelton yelling to Caleb, "We have a fire, man. We have a fire." And Caleb going, "Yeah, I know, but I'm trying to do stuff here." And I think, again, that's fine. It's good communication. I think it was really funny to watch kind of while the game was happening. And you know what? It's good to see everyone growing. And Shane Waldron, this was easily his best game of calling plays. It was, I think he's becoming more comfortable with the pieces that are around him. He understands that, I think at this point, that he's going to get called out a lot if he's not utilizing his players well enough, and this was a good game by Shane Waldron. It really, really was. This was one of those games where when we hired Shane Waldron, we thought that we were going to get more of right away. Maybe he just needed to warm up to everything. Um, but yeah, offense really, really happy with. I'd give them like an A+ in this game. There was not a lot I saw them do poorly. Again, no turnovers on, whether it was fumble or interception. There was really only one turnover worthy play that I saw, and that was, I'm pretty sure, like Caleb's first throw of the game, where he threw it to, I think it might have been DJ Moore, and there was two guys there, and it was just a little bit behind, and it kind of bounced in and out of the hands of one of the Panthers defenders. Other than that, nothing really to worry about in that one. And then going to the defense side of the ball, this was a game where I know a lot of Panthers fans were talking about how they were going, oh, we're a lot better on this offense with Andy Dalton. I kind of went with that and said, you did play the Raiders defense and then you played the Bengals defense last week. Let's maybe settle that down. The Bears right now are the second best defense in the NFL, only behind the Pittsburgh Steelers. Like that is massive. That is a huge thing to think about. And the Panthers just couldn't hang. They got 3 sacks in this game, an interception. They could have had another interception on Bryce Young when he ultimately came in garbage time. And I think we should have had that one. I was really hoping that we did. It was This was just a solid game. Other than the Chuba Hubbard touchdown run that was like the 38 yarder in the opening drive of the game, they really kind of controlled and settled the run. Hubbard had a few yards there, but overall they did a solid job just covering everything off. They didn't allow any big games from anyone. Jalen Coker, 4 catches for 68 yards. I don't necessarily consider that a fairly big game. And if that's the biggest that the Panthers had, it's like, okay, yeah. And just phenomenal job. But they were also able to get a handful of fumbles, one by Chuba Hubbard and one by Tommy Tremble. Again, that hit that Jaquan Brisker laid on Tremble was something outstanding, man. Unfortunately, reading the news today, Jaquan Brisker might have another concussion, which has been an issue that he's had throughout his career here in Chicago, and we've kind of been hoping that he can stay healthy for this year. He didn't fly out, or the news was he wasn't flying out with the Bears today when they go to London. Let's hope that he does make his way out there, and it's just they're kind of trying to monitor it at the moment. If the Bears do lose Jaquan Brisker on that defense, that's kind of almost the heart and soul of this defense this year, and that would be a big, big loss. But linebackers did exactly what they needed to do, and Gervon Dexter, man, oh my goodness, this dude has turned into one of the best interior defensive linemen in the NFL this year. At the end of the game, if he wasn't leading in the sack department, he was second in the sack department. Mind you, this is a second round, second year player, and he's doing like he's playing better than Jalen Carter right now. Like, I know Bears fans, we are always kind of looking at that, going, you know, should we have taken Jalen Carter as opposed to Darnold, right? Because he was looked so dominant at Georgia. I don't think any of us are too terribly worried from what we're seeing. Gervon Dexter is elite, man, and he's developing so nicely. He is, I'm gonna say it, the best defensive lineman we have. And one of the things that I kind of feared this year was Montez Sweat coming in and not having that same production. Now, it's only been 5 games. It has only been 5 games so far this year. However, Montez Sweat has not necessarily had the monster year that I would have hoped we have been potentially seeing from him at this particular point. Looking at our defensive side of things, Gervon Dexter leads the team in 4. Montez Sweat only has the 2. He didn't have a single stat in this previous game. he had 0. He was left pretty quiet on the stat sheet. Again, I think he had 3 hurries in this game. I don't know the amount of pressures that he had in it, but it is kind of one of those games where you ultimately kind of sit back and go, like, I would have loved to have seen Montez. Like, this kind of had that feeling of, like, if Montez is going to have a couple, like a 2 or 3 sack game, this kind of had that feeling of it, and he just hasn't had that yet. And again, it's still early. Like, he very easily could, just next week against the Jaguars go out there and have a 3 sack game and kind of get back on track. I looked at Montez and I was hoping for a 10+ sack season again, and right now only the 2. I'm a little bit disappointed. Again, he's getting double teamed every single play, it seems like, but you're seeing some of those superstar edge rushers out there that are still getting double team, like Myles Garrett, like Max Crosby, like TJ Watt, like Aiden Hutchinson, and they're still finding ways to get it done. So again, I would love for Montez to potentially almost like step it up a little bit. And again, I love Montez. I love what he has brought to this team and brought to this defense, because the second that he got onto this defense, he turned it into what it is. So he is a big, big factor. Do not get me wrong. But I would just want a little bit more. Like Darrell Taylor, the guy that we traded for, with like a 7th round pick from Seattle, like a week before the season started, it has the same amount of sacks as you. And so, like, yeah, for me, I want a little bit more. I want a little bit more. But this is really me just being nitpicky, because, again, I didn't look at, anything as really of a worry in this defensive matchup. I thought the end of the game, they were giving Bryce a little bit of shine, but then again, that was garbage time. I don't think a lot of the major starters were in that. But ultimately, a really, really good game. It was nice to see Kevin Byard ultimately get his first interception as a Bear. This is a guy that I kind of almost felt like has been a little bit underwhelming, because we know he's been a ball hawk his entire career. And it's kind of felt just that little bit underwhelming so far this year. But ultimately, great, great win. I think defense, another kind of like A+ performance here from them. They did exactly what they needed to do. Other than that one touchdown that they kind of allowed the Panthers to run, they kind of really just controlled it. They did everything that they needed to do, and it was just, again, it was just a good game, man. This was the game that the Bears needed to have. Now, I am fully aware this was against the Carolina Panthers, and you shouldn't really be celebrating these types of games, but I think it's better to celebrate these types of games than to be sitting back going, I can't believe we lost this game against that team, because, with the Rams, they were hurt. Like, if they had Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua out there last week, I think the Rams probably walk away with a victory. This week, it's just you're going up against a team that's a little bit banged up, but ultimately, they're just bad. And so the Bears went out there and beat them, and they didn't get beat, which is exactly what we want to see as Bear fans. And you need to go out there and beat the bad teams. Again, the best teams in the NFL, they know how to beat the bad teams and do it in a dominating fashion. This is what we saw from the Bears this week. Really, really happy from it. Make sure to like and subscribe and to comment on the video, as it really helps out. But I'm Brendan, and I'm saying peace.